My project is going pretty good. We actually just listed this property that I'm actually currently at right now, and I don't even know why we listed it because we actually ended up getting an offer, non-contingent, doesn't have an appraisal contingency, and we're going to make a little bit over 200K on it actually.
What's up, deal makers? We just finished Ask Alex number 45. Crazy. We've been doing this that many weeks. And this week we actually talked about reviewing deals, which is one of my favorite webinar topics. Alex, what do we get into today?
Man, we got into the nitty gritty of a couple of deals. One of the deals that we talked about, we recently flipped and it was a profitable deal. The other deal we talked about was something we recently bought and did a meetup at, but both of them had a lot of learning lessons. But you got to check out the webinar to learn all that. Let's go. What's up, my deal makers? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. So we're gonna get this webinar launched off today. We're gonna be talking about deals. And my man Will and I are gonna dissect a couple of them. So let's get you guys started. As always, make sure you guys are using the chat feature to interact and to make comments. Where's my man Will? See some familiar faces. I'm still in LA. Super excited to be here for another 2 days before I head back to Maui. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about deals, you guys. One of them we closed on, the other one we're still in the middle of rehab, or we're just getting to the beginning part of rehabbing the property. We had a great meetup there this weekend, so that was cool. But yeah, I'm in sunny Southern California for another 2 days. Well, I'm leaving tomorrow night back to Maui. What's up, Will Wall?
Hey, how are you, brother? Sorry, my camera was back there behind the thing.
What's up, man? Dream big, huh?
Yes, sir.
You're a big dreamer?
Big dreamer. So I'm fired up today, man. I know we're doing some deal talk, right? And obviously I know we'll get a little update from you, where you've been at, what you've been up to. I'm looking forward to hearing that as well.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I think once we get into the actual deals themselves, people will have questions. Every deal is different, but we analyze them in a very similar fashion. We take them down in similar ways as well. So
Yep.
I think there's constant learning in each deal. I love dissecting just the way we got it, how we funded it, where it's at in progress, what we've learned, and just sharing with everybody else, because these are live deals that we're doing in 2021, where everybody says you can't find a deal. We're finding them.
So Alex, tell me real quick, like, where have you been at? What have you been up to? Obviously, we're kind of letting people trickle into the room here. And as people do, you can let us know in the chat, where you're kind of tuning in from, what your name is, all that good stuff. Instagram handle's great so that people can connect with you outside of the webinar today. But Alex, I know you've been all over the place. Like, tell us a little bit where you've been at, what you've been up to, what's been going on, man.
Oh yeah, well, thanks, man, for asking. I was last week I was in New Orleans, right, for BPCon 2020, Bigger Pockets Conference. For those of you who don't know what BPCon is, or I don't know what world you guys are on or not, but Bigger Pockets is such a big, company and just juggernaut of the real estate investing industry. If you're not connected there, you got to be. But was there last week. I spent another day or so in New Orleans, and that's a really cool city, man. That's a city I would go back to. Just a lot of dining options. I ate a couple of restaurants, but just the food was incredible. Just very unique. The French Quarter is super lively. Reminded me a little bit of Hollywood. And I know you spent a lot of time in your career in Hollywood, so I think you'd like it there a little bit too, Will. But flew in on Friday over to LA. We immediately got to work. We looked at like 7-8 properties on Saturday, and we hosted the meetup. That was an exhausting but super cool day to connect with everybody. And then Sunday, my man Will Wall hooked me up with best tickets in the house. It's for the LA Chargers. Man, I almost say San Diego. Sorry, bro. Sorry. But dude, that game was epic. Like,
killer game, right?
Killer game. And, you know when you could get invited or you actually go to a game and it's that kind of, it's average, it's mediocre, it's not really exciting, or your team loses. It's not the same. But this, man, it was an electric game, and it was a great win for the home team. And I got to check out SoFi Stadium for the first time, which was just, the work they did on that multi-billion-dollar stadium, now I see why they spend so much money, because it's a world-class venue. But yeah, man. And then
guys,
also,
we've talked about that before, right? Like, I mean, when we do these kind of house flips and things like that, like that's what we're doing, right? We're modernizing, we're, going into neighborhoods, turning over the block. And so, Alex's post about the game was so spot on, right? Because that stadium is kind of like the coming together of all the development, all the work, all the turnover that's kind of been going on in LA for years now. And you see a big building like that right in our backyard. That's something huge, right? It's a big part of LA, and it's fun to go see it in person.
yeah, and
Especially after you fly over it all the times that you do.
And
right?
I spend so much time in the neighborhoods adjacent to the stadium, and I've seen them literally change before my eyes as far as price values, and also the changes that are happening with more options and more dining. And I mean, that area is going to continue to evolve now. That stadium is going to be part of that, but it's been part of that already for years. And to see it actually all come together, especially because it was delayed because of COVID, and all the shit that's been happening there, that, I mean, really nobody's just to actually be in a stadium with like 50, 60,000, I don't know how many it was, I think it was over 60,000 people, was just unreal. And we got to have a couple of beers and watch some great football. So thank you for that, Will. And then also, I just want to give credit to you and to the team, because you guys locked up 3 new deals last week, 3 new escrows last week. So that's epic, man. So great job on that. And so I'm going back to Maui tomorrow. I'm going to finish the last pieces of just getting the rehab done there on the property that we're keeping. And then I'm going to be working on furnishing it as well with my team. I'm actually going in with 2 interns that made the final cut for the traveling personal assistant. So they're flying in with me to Maui, and staying with me and helping me get that project done. And then also, we're picking up a new condo flip in Maui. So we're going to need some additional bandwidth for that too. And then also, we're looking for more contractors kind of in LA because of these new deals. So if anybody knows anybody, this is the time, you guys, to use the chat and keep us, help us out a little bit, because we need now some more contractors for these multiple projects we got going on in LA. So that's it. I'm ready to go, man. Talk about some deals. Give the tribe everything they come in for.
Yeah, man. And again, I think like you mentioned, we have gotten a couple of deals here. So looking to get a couple more, contractors for sure to kind of help us, in turning over those, those projects and making sure that we don't go, too far out of our bandwidth. But yeah, guys, you guys are going to get to look at some deals today. It should be pretty fun. We're going to actually dive in. Alex is going to share his screen in a second here, and we're going to actually kind of do a little dive into some of the deals that we're looking at out here in LA. Give you guys an idea and kind of give you guys a glimpse into a property that we currently are purchased, and we actually had a meetup at, and then just one on the outs. So one on the way in, one on the way out, right? One that just we're closing escrow on and getting to work on, and one that we just closed on and finished. So you guys will get to kind of see both sides, how we do the ARV on the beginning, and then how we kind of assess the ARV afterwards. And Alex, we kind of call those our postmortems, where we just kind of reassess the deal and kind of really look and go like, hey, what were the final numbers? What could we have done better? Where, what happened, right?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, that's something that we do, that I learned from previous mentors, is constantly reviewing your results of each and every investment deal that you do. And it's something that's kind of ongoing too, with regard to like even rentals and other stuff that you hold on to, or whether you flip it, is just analyzing your deal to see where it's at, not letting it just sit there. Perhaps there's other things that you can do with this, such as take out a line of credit on it, or such as like with us, hey, you know what, maybe we like this area, the numbers were really well, they worked out, and we want to continue to mine this area for more opportunities. So you're paying attention to that data on a consistent basis, so that way you can improve and then continue to see what's working. So I think that's a big reason why we love just analyzing and reanalyzing deals. And I don't mean one that and then not taking action. I mean, these are live transactions. So these live transactions have lessons in them. And so that's why I think these are one of our favorite webinars, just to share what we're kind of learning and we're seeing as the market develops. It is a very unique market that we're in, right? So,
yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it.
Just for logistic purposes here, or to be specific, I am bringing up the calculator, also bringing up MLS. And then should I bring up the original email from the team, or what am I doing there? Just
We can just pull up the deal. You know, in the there is an email that you're going to see, the wholesaler email. So if you want to pull that up, you can do the new wholesaler opportunity. And then, yeah, we'll pull up the MLS, kind of run some comps, guys, and we'll run through the calculator as well, and just give you guys a quick whirl and see what we're thinking when we kind of buy these properties.
Yeah, so let me bring it up here. There's since been, because we bought the property, a lot of emails from the property. So I'm just making sure I'm bringing up the right one.
It's going to be the new wholesaler opportunity.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, I got it. Like I said, there's just been a ton of emails going on, so I'm trying to bring it up. And I've been busy up until the start of this webinar. So yeah, it's been a crazy day already here in LA, in downtown. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share my screen, you guys. You're going to see the email that I got from my team. We began to look at this opportunity and how we developed it and the numbers we ran. So here we go. All right. So here we go. New wholesale opportunity. This is the address. This is what asking price is. This is 7K estimated rehab. This is the ARV. So we got our numbers. The teams looked at the property. We ended up getting we get a walkthrough video. So that way I have all the ammunition to make decisions or ask further questions that something maybe they didn't cover, right? So that's how I'm able to analyze these deals from afar. First of all, I know Sun Valley very, very, very well. I used to work in the area, and it's part of the San Fernando Valley. So I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. So it's just like, I know these areas like the back of my hand. So there's photos here where it's gonna help me analyze and confirm or change the estimate they have for the rehab based on my experience. So should we open the pictures or just look at the email, Will?
Well, yeah, and you can open up the pictures for sure. And guys, again, like what we want to do basically when we're sending this email to Alex is give him all the information that he would need to know, like you said, to make a decision on these properties. And so, this is the original email from the wholesaler, and then this is the photos that we took, and we actually did a walkthrough. So this was with some photos from both myself and from Amari when we went on our walkthrough here. And this house, you guys will recognize the folks that were able to make it out for the meetup. We're going to do some work in here in the kitchen. We're going to upgrade, obviously the cabinets and the spacing in there, close off that door. And so, again, we just basically wanted to come out to this house during our first investigation and do what we call our due diligence phase. And so
that stud, look at that stud right there. Who's that guy right there?
This next picture is Alex's favorite right here. Where I'm talking to the seller here.
There you go. I was like, bro, that's a social media pic right there. You gotta post that. Watch out for that post, fellas. And everybody.
Yeah, that's me right there with the seller hanging out under a little umbrella. So
yeah. So that was the initial walkthrough. I looked it over. Also, I mean, we don't have time to go through every single video, obviously, but you get a feel for the layout. A big part of rehabbing these entry level or just houses in general is that these houses have been built 50, 75, 100 years ago, and the functions they had when they were built are different than with the functions that are needed today. And so as they say, we're reintroducing these properties, and so there has to be thought put into that. First of all, about repairing, upgrading stuff, but also improving, changing layouts as needed to improve the functionality of property for today's family or today's buyer. So I think that's also important point, and that's easier said than potentially done, because these properties are funky. There's funky layouts, and it's just like, what the hell were they thinking when they built this thing? And you see so much of that whenever you're walking property, and that's why you need to get inside and really see what this property has to offer, or what it could have to offer if you reposition some stuff or you change some things out. Isn't my favorite part of what we do, but I know a lot of you design people and people that watch HGTV and think about designing a house. Finding the deal for me is more important than like what walls should come down or not. But that's just a little side note.
Now, again, just so you guys know, when we're sending these pictures and videos, typically when we do these photos, we're looking for things that might be off in the house or things that we might need to go back and reference. And same with the videos. I see some videos that people will take and they'll send them to me, and it'll just be like kind of some really random stuff. Like when we do a video, we're actually going in there and we're saying, hey, this would need to happen here. This would need to happen over here. And then this would happen here. And it's not meant to be, a 5-minute long Blair Witch Project, type of video where somebody's going to get motion sickness. But, just like hey, quick here, this is the front yard. This is what we're thinking of. This is what our plan would look like, from a curb appeal standpoint. And, you can kind of go through and get a real quick idea. And for those of you that came out to the meetup, Alex was able to kind of go over all of this stuff in person for you guys as well.
Yeah. So let me go back here. Okay, so looked at the property. I felt, based on my experience, that 70 was a little bit light, but it could happen simply because the property looked like it probably needed upgrade of most of the major systems, or at least some work on those major systems, which are, plumbing, electrical, roof. There's got to, based on what I saw, I was like, okay, so that's part of what I do, is just, help vet the numbers, see if we're off, because, they keep changing too with time, inflation, and with rising costs and supply chain issues. I mean, the cost of stuff is, you guys hear the lumber shortage and all that, but there's other things that are short as well. A lot of different materials that we can't source as fast as we could in the past. So, all right. And then where was the other part of the email had the listings themselves for the exit comps. So this link right here shows me what comps they're using to determine the ARV. We have a 590, 659, 720, 770, and 810. So these two were the ones that were most, I think, closest to where we really saw we need to be at. And when we saw this comp right here, which is, literally around the corner, it does have one bigger bathroom, was one of those ones that we're like, well, we call the business as an exit comp. Somebody rehabbed the property, this property flipped as well, and they completely dialed it in, and we're going to look very similar, or we need to look similar to this to be able to get the same price. So we'll go through all the pictures, we check everything out, because sometimes, to be real, we'll look at some rehabs, we're like, we're probably not going to be able to do that, and if you are, it's going to cost a lot more than what we're thinking it's going to cost. So I'm like, okay, well, no, then we can't really say that we're going to be able to get something close to that and use that as our resale or ARV number if we're not going to be able to produce the same product. Or also, we're considering what time of the year we're going to list the property. So we're saying, hey, if we're going to list it in an inferior part, meaning like we're going to list it in the wintertime compared to like the prime spring or summertime, then we're not going to give it the same ARV. We got to kind of, adjust, make those adjustments and not be too aggressive, because right now we're seeing a cooling off. We're seeing a more normalized market than all these like crazy offers that we were seeing before, where we're seeing 10, 15 offers per property. We're not seeing the same. We're still seeing multiple offers, but just not the same. So we're just not going to be as aggressive.
And again, guys, like when we do these comps, we're looking for what we call that quote exit comp. So you heard Alex say that, like, the exit comp is the ones that we think are closest to what we could produce and what we could create with what we're working with.
Yeah, and then this property here, it was 770, but it's not that, really dialed in. And there's some things like pavers in the driveway, and looks like it's, a kitchen that was upgraded 10, 12 years ago, but it doesn't look like it's anything recent, but it's probably well-maintained, just lived in property. And that one sold for 770. And it's crazy, it sold for 120,000 over asking. This one does have additional bathroom, additional bedroom, but it's still in the neighborhood. It's still like literally within a walk, a quarter of a mile or less. So we're really trying to figure out what, and then also I know a lot of the end buyers in this area tend to be buyers that are buying a lot of property in Glendale and Burbank. A lot of Middle Eastern buyers, Armenians, are a lot of them are pretty well off, and then they're buying property left and right. They're avid, investors. I mean, so we know our end buyer pool is loaded with cash and money, and I've seen it with other property in certain parts of the valley that are just, those buyers are heavy concentratedly there, and they'll pay top dollar, and they like the fancy stuff. So that's kind of another kind of tidbit, because that's us knowing our end buyer pool. The more you can know the end buyer pool of your product, the better. So that way you can customize your play and your investment, whatever you're working on, to what they are going to want and what they're going to really, really enjoy and really want, and to pay top dollar for. So these were the two exit comps. We didn't have much more than that to go off of. The other ones were far inferior properties, I believe. And so we drove the comps, and we talked to our broker that is doing a lot of transactions, and he gave us his opinion, and we all kind of determined that we would be in the 750, 775 range. Like that's kind of the ballpark we were going to be at. And then the team over here put together the numbers of the property here.
And guys, just so you know, this calculator is available online if you guys need a calculator to use when you're analyzing deals. This is the one that we use regularly when we're out here looking at properties, when we're investing. we're making our decisions based off of this calculator. So
right.
I'll share the Facebook group in the chat right now, and you guys can download that in there if you need a copy of it to work on.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to just go ahead and just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. But for those of you who have not seen our calculator, we have 3 sections that are back. They're kind of side by side on purpose to compare the base case where we feel the most confident in our numbers, the worst case in case everything hits the fan, everything goes wrong, and then the best case scenario. So that way we have kind of a true understanding of the investment opportunity and can make the best decision possible and make the best offer possible, especially when we're in advanced parts of negotiations with some of these deals where we really got to pencil in our numbers. It's not like, these home run deals just fall in our laps. We really got to know what we're really getting ourselves into. So they came up with 570 as asking, because that's what the wholesaler was asking, 780 resale, 70. I ended up bringing this down, I believe, to 765,000 because I wanted to be more conservative there. I didn't see as easy approaching 8 because we have only 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, but it looks like we're going to be able to get that other bathroom in there. And then we end up bumping this up. I believe I bumped this base case scenario to 75,000. And I think it barely hit our numbers. So we usually like to be at 30%. This number to be 30% cash on cash, kind of annualized return on investment, or at least $50,000-$60,000, depending on what price point we're buying the house, as a minimum desired profit for our base case. So that way we're like, okay, we're going to do this deal. This is the numbers we feel good about. There's also the other numbers down here, right? The cash investment. This is actually 20%. So let me change that back. This is a number we pay very, very close attention to. Also with this lender, they were going to give us, I think, basically 100. We're basically gonna get most of it by the lender. I'm sorry, 20% of ours. So essentially, for this property, if we're having to put 20% down, which is $114,000 when we acquire the property, and then we're having to put about $15,000 of our own money into the deal, because we get these draws, so then it allows us to use 15-20 grand of our money, and then they give us a reimbursement, and then we kind of use that model. Unless it's a much smaller rehab or smaller property, we're not using that much cash, then we'll just fund the rehab out of our pocket. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, to be real. And then we got some closing costs here. I think I changed this because, what happens when you're buying wholesale deals, you guys have to account that the wholesale deals, you're usually having to pay for the buyer and the seller's closing costs when you buy the property. So that might be another $2,000-$3,000 that you're not considering in your numbers. So I think this number was wrong. It was kind of closer to 1.25. Yeah, so I was kind of like, I think 1.15. So it's kind of closer to that number. And I kind of adjusted our numbers. And then because this is in very core Los Angeles, I think we were able to get this at 1.5%, a better cost for the money. And yeah, we got really good pricing on this, 7.5% hard money. And so once I changed the numbers, it still hit our numbers. It was very close to hitting our numbers. So I said, okay, let's lock it up. And we took the deal down. As far as worst case scenario.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the other thing is, that's our base case, right? And why this calculator is so great, guys, is because it'll also show us what our worst case is, and then what Alex really likes, which is the upside, right? So when we use this calculator, we're really looking at all 3, but we start at base and then we go out to the other ones afterwards.
Yeah, and then to be honest on this one's off right here by quite a lot. So actually, let me tell you what I think the worst case would really be, because this was the email they sent to me, but I adjusted these numbers so we don't have that other formula with us. So let me just do it right live in front of you guys. But I was like, well, no, that house could easily go to 85,000, maybe 90,000 in rehab. That could easily something can happen, and then we'd be delayed by certain things. City involvement, whatever that might be, and that could be easily 6-month project. But how much is that? So that would be 180 days, and then we could end up falling really short of our ARV. I think 735 was kind of worst case scenario, I think, for me on this one, because it would still be a completely rehab property in an area. I just don't see it going for anything less than something around there. And then let's see what else. We could have to pay 2 points on the money. And then, no, that's not accurate. We might have to fund 100% of that out of our pocket. Wait, that number is off. Why is this number off? Never mind, hold on a second. I'm working on the wrong one here. All right, 2% here. This is when I was supposed to 100%. Okay, so this is number. So you see, on the worst case scenario on this property, we would get a 3.37% annualized return and only make $11,000. However, if everything went wrong like that, then the chances are that something else is going on outside of our control. And as long as we break even, or I'm willing to lose $5,000, $10,000, and it wouldn't be investors' money, it would be my money because we just got unlucky. And that happens when you're doing a lot of volume. But it just has not happened to us yet, because this is the formula that we use to help avoid potential big losers. Because what you don't want something where you can potentially lose 50, 75,000, and that could put you out the game, or just drastically set you back and completely affect, obviously, your confidence in wanting to do more deals and likelihood of doing more deals. So that's kind of the worst case I saw. And then the best case, I think I just will still think like we're still gonna have to spend like 70 grand on this thing. This is still wrong. I don't know why it's down. Yeah, so everything else like lined up. And then so this was a potential six-figure $100,000 profit deal. And so that's really why I saw the potential, like, hey, we can make six figures on this thing if we do everything right. And even if it sells for like even north, like that same comp we saw before, 810, I mean, this thing can make $110,000, $115,000 of profit. I mean, those are the type of deals we want to do. So, yeah.
And even put in like a 780 in there or something, like if it were to come, the market comes down a little bit and regresses, if we were to still get a 780 on this and 75K on the rehab, like, it went over a little bit, like, that's still a good, healthy return on a deal. And sometimes you just want to do a deal with a new wholesaler that you've maybe never done business with before, just so that they kind of know, like, hey, these guys close, these guys take down deals. You take down a deal, then their next one, maybe they're going to come to you first, right?
Yeah, and I do want to say about the acquisition side, because I'm sure you could probably tell it better, but we noticed that this wholesaler particularly wasn't from this part of town, and so they had to come up from, I think, San Diego area to show the property. And so we had to negotiate a little bit, even though that was their asking. It wasn't like it was just like easy, like, okay, here, take the deal, and then it wasn't easy. We fought for it, but we also stuck to our guns, like, hey, this is all we're gonna pay, because he started saying he had other offers that are conventional, like $15,000 higher. We're like, no, we're not doing that. Our numbers are solid where they're at. I wanted the deal at 560. I kept telling True, like, hey, I want the deal at 560. Get it for that price. Get it for that price. We ended up coming up a little bit, me in the middle, because of all the other due diligence we did, and enable us to have confidence that, like, this is not gonna be a loser deal. We're gonna make potentially a much higher profit if we do our job right. If not, at the very minimum, it's gonna hit our minimums that we want for our cash to be used, or other investors' cash to be used, where it's profitable enough for all of us to make money. So any other questions, or does Will suggestions and what else we share on this particular?
Yeah, I mean, again, guys, like Alex mentioned, we're always looking to continue to kind of grow our deals and grow our deal flow. So this was one that we also kind of looked at. And Alex, if you don't mind just pulling up the Google map view, so again, like, we always talk about having multiple exit plays. Like if there's a house that has multiple exit plays, that gives us a little bit more confidence going into the deal as well. So this was one that we actually also looked at as well for a potential ADU, right? Like the backyard and the alley access do support an ADU. So this was one that we were able to, run our numbers on the ADU. And although we're not going to pursue the ADU, it is something that the next homeowner could pursue. And so it's always something, again, to keep in mind. And again, Alex and I call that our exit strategies, right?
Yeah. Well, we looked at that, and because it has that other opportunity, then it has additional value that you could extract from it by doing something different than just flipping it or just turning it to a rental. Because a rental, it just wouldn't even hit the 1% rule. I mean, I doubt you could rent the property more than, like, high 2s, low 3s for the property, and then you're into it, $650,000 or something like that, or some crazy amount with you. It wouldn't make sense. But as an ADU, it potentially could be worth, $850,000, $875,000, all the way to like almost $1 million, like depending on how big an ADU you build. So those
are always things to keep in mind. Again, like Alex said, like, we want to know what our end buyer pool is. So when we ran the comps, there just really wasn't a lot of ADUs in this area. As Alex mentioned, there were a couple between that 850 and $1 million point, but just not really enough to give us a solid enough reason to say, hey, let's add an ADU in here, versus just let's make a 60, to 70, 80K spread on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the ADU makes the most sense when you're able to, for sure, get the exit comp that you need as an ADU, not simply for you to flip it, but if you want to hold it and burr it, well, you also need the end value for the refinance with the loan with the lender. So whether you're going to burr something or you're going to flip something, you need to consider. So people are like, oh, why are you doing ADU? Why are you doing ADU? Well, if you don't have the comps, you're kind of running that risk that on the back end, it doesn't appraise, and then you got to keep a lot more money into the deal. And that's what they don't talk about when you're talking about burring properties, specifically in a more expensive markets such as Los Angeles. Yeah. So, okay. Well, should we talk about Keith Lane or?
Yeah, that was pretty much it on that deal, guys. Again, for those of you that weren't able to make it out, we did do a meetup up at that house. We'll post some pictures in the Facebook group, and we'll give you guys a chance to kind of, catch up next time we do one of these meetups. And, if you guys were in the group right now and you were able to attend the meetup, if you don't mind just kind of sharing in the chat, what your biggest takeaway was. I know for me, it wasn't just learning about the house, because obviously, I acquired it. I was a part of that side of it. But it was more just the networking, right? We had about 30 people out there at the house. There were people that were agents, there were people that were wholesalers, there were people that were new, there were people that were experienced. And so getting to actually kind of connect one-on-one with some of the people there was probably my funnest part of the meetup. And we will post our next meetup that we're having in the Facebook group, and I posted that in there in the chat for you guys. So
yeah, what about the Keith Lane for that same opportunity? I think that it came in a little bit different because Paul found it, but it was off of a wholesaler as well. This is the property here. It was actually an acre and a half. We just sold it. How should I
have the same new opportunity email? So we might have to just kind of dive into some details on this on the MLS. If you don't mind just kind of pulling up the address on MLS so we can see some of the details.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So let me do that.
And again, guys, this first property we reviewed is a property that we had already, or that we were just purchasing, right? So we just picked that one up. We are now getting into rehab. This one that we're going over is now going to be one that we are completed with. So we've finished this flip, we've finished this opportunity now, and now we are, closed and recorded in escrow, and we no longer own this property. So just to give you guys again a background there, so you understand the difference between.
So you want me to bring up the listing?
Yeah, just bring up the listing in there just so that people can kind of see what it looked like. And then we can kind of,
because it was uploaded in the other MLS, I don't know if it's going to show, but let me see, because
it should be that Zillow listing.
I brought it up and didn't bring it up, so okay,
perfect. So again, guys, this is a property that's now already been flipped, right? So that's the big difference that you're going to see here. This is one that we've now finished and completed. And so we no longer own this property.
Yeah. So, and this property was brought to us by somebody that we work with in the Antelope Valley, one of our partners, Paul. He knew the area well because he owned another, I think at the time, he sold some of his units, but he had at least half of his portfolio, about 15 units in Rosamond. So, and my cousin from Guadalajara lives in Rosamond. As well. So I've been out there a couple of times. So it's about 50. Let me just show real quick, because I think some people just don't know where it is. It's just one of those tertiary, I guess you would call those markets, right? Where it's a little bit north of the main city, which is about outside of it. But still nice houses, still nice neighborhoods. People still, still need a place to live. Okay, so it's funny. These are some of the deals. I always put a little check marker. I got to put that one for Rosamond. So this is like Palmdale, right? So this is Palmdale, east, west, east, Lancaster, east, west, and also Quartz Hill. So right past that is Rosamond. This little, I guess, patch of city here, but it's actually in Kern County, so it's not LA County. And then some of these other outlying areas, such as California City and Mojave, are over here this way. So we have a couple of deals.
This collectively is called the Antelope Valley.
Yeah. So it was a little bit out there because I had done some deals already, but I hadn't done anything in Rosemont. But since my partner had units in the area, had tradesmen and contractors and everything like that, obviously gave me a lot more confidence. He was going to be managing the project, and it was a heavy rehab. Typically, I don't like heavy rehabs. I say it on and on again to people because they just have the biggest likelihood, in my experience, to run away and be a much higher rehab than you expected. So that 80,000 is much more likely to become $120,000 rehab than a $40,000 rehab that could turn into like a 60 or even a 50. You know, it's just it is what it is. So many more things can go wrong. But we got a nice sale property, you know, entry level. We had a projected resale price of 325. We're buying it for 145. You guys don't mind, then I guess should I just bring up the calculator and show the numbers and then do all the calculations again?
Yeah, we'll kind of start with what the calculations were, because I know the ARV on this kind of went up a little bit as well for when we initially purchased it. So let's kind of look at it on the way in, and then we'll look at it on the way out and see what it actually ended up as.
Okay, so real quick, so actually I think that's what it ended up at, but we were at 325 and $80,000 rehab. Sorry. Okay, so something, yeah, 115. Yeah, so I think this was, we're buying it for 145. We had a low 300,000. We knew we were going to be in that 3 to 350, but it was hard to tell. There wasn't a lot of comps. I mean, keep in mind, you guys, this property has an acre and a half, and it had some significant disrepair, and it was really bad shape. It was like 2 different structures. There was like a well on there. There's a couple structures we had to demo. So it was gonna be a heavy rehab overall, and we just didn't have a lot of like for like sales comparables that we could really rely on. So what we had to rely on is more on the knowledge of the market, and then also our partner having walked the property and saw the rehab, and he's gonna be in charge of the project management, and he knows rehab really well. All that combined helped us lock in this deal pretty quickly, because what happened is we knew there was a deal, and this particular wholesale didn't have a huge buyers list, I think, on this particular property. Not a lot of people were biting, and so we just went in there. We knew what we wanted, and we souped it up at their asking, and we got the deal. So, but that's after looking at it twice within the first day or two that it got sent out to us. So we jumped right on it because we knew there was some margin there. And okay, sorry, go back to the flip calc. Okay, so this is where I think we were at. The hard money lender, I think, charges a little bit higher rate.
Yeah, it was a little higher because it was a burn house, so it was 8.5%.
Yeah, and then, sorry, so this is actually not there. We're gonna raise capital. Yeah, so this is kind of closer to what the numbers looked like when we first decided to do the deal. I remember seeing that it was kind of be close to $70,000-$80,000 of profit, and because the cash to use it was like about 100. Wasn't that, you know, it's like spend about 100,000 to make $70,000. Like, that's a great return on investment. So those are the type of deals we look for. So that's what I saw with this particular property, and sure enough, I mean, it really kind of hit similar numbers to what we projected. I think it made about 68 total before paying out everybody. Everybody made some money on that. Some money. Anything else you want me to share? I don't. This number here is I've been working on the Maui house.
Yeah. So again, this was our pre-buy, right? So now let's kind of take a look at what happened on the exit, right?
Well, I'll let you just kind of go back because that's kind of what I was just working on. Yeah, so this is what the rehab ended up going to $98,437. Okay, we ended up holding for 175 days longer than we expected. This goes up. All right, so yeah, this was kind of closer to the end number before team bonuses and everything, because when we got $25,000 more than we expected, but then we spent $20,000 more than we wanted. So we made a little bit more than we expected, but not much more. And it was a big headache. It was definitely not like an easy project. It took a lot of team bandwidth, which is,
and guys, you know, that's why a lot of times, like Alex mentioned, like these heavy fixers are not the best ones to jump into, because, you know, if you go in there with the 50K rehab budget and all of a sudden it goes to 60, 70, 80K, it can, you know, really damage the deal. But on our end, we knew that this had high upside potential, and it also had hey, it is a burn house, so it is going to have that side of things too. So there's pieces of every puzzle, but the reason why we bought this house, Alex, is because the discount that we got, right? The ARV, what we thought it was and what we were purchasing it for was about a 50% discount, right?
That's really where I usually like to be at when we're buying a much heavier rehab because of that risk. We need to offset that risk. Doesn't have to all be half off, but that's what I've noticed. It has to be somewhere more than a traditional, what you hear 30% off of ARV or 35% or whatever those kind of standard formulas usually tell you to be at.
You have to get some of that extra money because you're taking on some of those extra headaches, right? And this house had been burned down and kind of unoccupied for quite some amount of time when we bought it. And so that's something that kind of goes a long way, right? When you go in and turn around a property like that. And Alex, we actually got a call from one of the neighbors, right? That ended up calling up our partner, Paul, and just was ecstatic on what we had done to the property.
Yep. So I don't know what else you wanted to share, but I think we kind of covered those in detail. We had a backup one in case, people didn't really have questions or, but usually everybody has some questions that we can answer and give them the value, my guy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and check in, see if anybody here on the call has any questions on the houses that we went over. I see Rashawn asking how much do you think you can rent that flip for? I'm assuming you're talking about the flip out in Rosamond. In Rosamond, again, you can rent homes out there for anywhere from $1,000 to $2,400 or so, depending on the size of the house. We don't typically worry about how much you can rent it for because we're usually selling it and flipping it as opposed to holding it. But you can, Rentometer is a great tool to use, or oftentimes we'll use Craigslist or just calling agents in the area to kind of get an idea of like, hey, what would something like this rent for if it was fixed up?
Yep, absolutely. So, so do we have any questions?
Yeah, I think that was the main questions that we had coming in. I mean, again, you went through and kind of dissected each of those deals pretty well. Why don't we go ahead and bring up our third deal, and you can share the screen on that one here as well. Again, for this one, guys, we'll be looking at one of the properties that we got into escrow here this past week. So
is that Proctor?
Yeah, Proctor. So we're excited about this one. This is one that's just about to the finish line, and really just kind of hits. Oh, go ahead.
There should be an opportunity.
Yep.
Email for that too.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's
load her up. This is a lead that we wanted to bring up because this one really kind of hits on multiple different targets, right? So this is one that actually kind of got started for us because of one of our Rockstar team members, Eliam, and Eliam was out driving for dollars and put in a couple of houses out where he grew up out in California City. And this is not one of those homes, but this actually led us to an agent in that area that was able to provide us with access to a couple of other properties in the area. And this is one that we were able to secure here as a result of that. So Alex, let's go ahead and pull up the property again, just so people can kind of see where California City is on the map. I know Alex showed you guys before, this is the furthest of the properties out there in Antelope Valley, right?
Yep.
This is way out there.
The desert, basically.
Yeah, so this is the California desert. We're out here in California City, and we're a couple blocks away from the golf course, which is what we call the high end side of California City. Which again
there's really no high end part of California City. You're saying the more expensive houses in California City.
There you go. So there is no necessary high end out there. There is a cap. It is a desert community, and so we're not really talking about $1 million homes out here. But for all intents and purposes, this property that we were looking at fits the bill. It's a property that's a little bit older, solid bones, but just needs a general cosmetic rehab. Correct, Alex?
Yep. This is entry-level property, entry-level prices, and these cosmetic rehabs we kind of do all day in our sleep. I mean, they still work, but it's pretty hard to mess these up because you're not doing much. You're not having to make additions and pull permits for all types of things that you're doing to the property. Is simply just new windows, any major systems that need to be kind of serviced, flooring, paint, landscaping, and not much, and upgrading the bathrooms and the kitchens, and pretty much it. And what I like also about Antelope Valley, because properties kind of tend to be a little bit newer out there, because if you are looking at Los Angeles, a lot of properties are somewhat older because the city is older. So some of these outlying areas, the properties in the year built are newer, and if they've been kind of at least maintained, they're not as bad a condition as maybe one you might see that hasn't been upgraded that long and it's 100 years old in LA. A lot of those heavy rehabs that I've seen in LA were those properties that were like 100 years old, that they were just not upgraded very much at all. And then now you're having to completely update the electrical, completely update the roof, plumbing, sometimes foundation work, all these things that you're not going to really come across with these other kind of properties that we're working on. And so we'll work on all of it, but we prefer stuff that's not going to require extensive remodel and extensive city involvement and all that. So what else?
Listing here on Zillow, right? Because again, this doesn't really show up on our MLS. This will show up out in the Flex MLS out in Kern County area. And so for us, we aren't able to get access to that here. But when you look at the listing, it was listed at 174,900. And this is, again, like Alex mentioned, a good solid 3.2, 1,100 square foot home. This is a good starter price point. Let's scroll down a little bit here, Alex, and look at some of these pictures. And, again, not much wrong with this home, right? So how many days on the market was this at, Alex? I think this was an over 30, right? Yep. So 34 days on the market. And what do you guys know right now about the market that we were just in, about days on market, right? If the property was priced correctly, the average home was spending less than 2 weeks on the market. We saw these crazy prices where, days on market were 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days, thousands of dollars over asking with no contingencies. I think those days are a little bit more over, but again, this property is sitting on the market for 30 days or more. And that's where we came in as investors and said, hey, what's the price that's going to get this done? What can we do to make this thing happen? So let's go ahead and take a look at the calculator real quick. And you should have that in your new opportunity email, not this one, but further down, because what we do, guys, in these opportunity emails that we send, and the reason why we send these is because we want everyone who's a partner in that area to get a chance to kind of take a look at the data, the information, the house, the lead, and run it through their calculations and see, hey, where does this thing kind of fit, right? Where do we look on this? So when we kind of take a look at this property, we ended up purchasing it at 157, and we have a 40K rehab on it. And we think our ARV on it is actually a little bit closer to 245. So we'll put it as at a 2. You can leave it at 235, 240 on the base, and on best case, we think it's a little bit closer to 245, 250.
Yeah, that is, again, we adjusted our numbers based on going and vetting the deal. I went to that, the beautiful California city out there with you guys and saw the property for myself and confirmed all of it. So, I feel good about it as well.
And the reason why these numbers are a little bit lower, guys, is you'll see that the profit that we're making on this is only like $20,000 to $30,000, right? So it's a lot lower than that 60 to 80, 100,000 that we were talking about on the deal here in LA. But what's really a lot lower here is our total cash commitment, right? And yeah, Alex, I was going to say, even when you lower that down to,
even when you lower this down to like 30% or something like that, because we get the draws going, I think it is. So we might end up only using about 40,000 of our money to make 20 to 30, maybe even 40. So that's kind of the numbers we were playing with out there, much lower, but also much less commitment So we're able to flip more houses and cover more ground, get more experience, and overall have more going on than if we were to just only buy like in core Los Angeles houses that only fit there. So we're buying in Southern California. Keep that in mind as well. We have projects across Southern California. It's not just LA. LA County is where we mostly buy, but that's what I learned from one of my first mentors. Like, he didn't care where it was in Southern California, even down all the way to San Diego. And we would go all the way down to San Diego. But we don't come across the stuff that often down there because we're really kind of dialed in over here in LA County and the adjacent counties. But we would, because I learned that as long as the numbers work and you're getting and it fits your business model, then you should be able to do that deal across a pretty vast territory. Yep.
And again, shout out to our Rockstar team out there that we have that we work with out in Antelope Valley. Paul, Eric, Eliam, and everybody else that's involved, because what ends up happening is these properties we're able to do because of that team, right? Because we're able to make these investments and these recurring investments. These are more of like the money that keeps the money going. And then, it allows us to kind of balance out our risk on some of our other properties that might be a little bit more risky, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I frankly, we were looking for investment opportunities in AV for holding as well, because of Paul having so much success over there. And then also having a Rockstar agent that you mentioned, part of our team, Eric, over there from Keller Williams in Palmdale. We just have a solid Rockstar team that helps us execute these deals. However we wanted to, go ahead and dispose of them, whether we keep them as rentals or we flip them, or, we look for some other opportunities like multifamily. Like, building the team is really, it's the people that help you execute and get these deals. So having everybody trained and everybody on the same page and all of our goals are aligned is our priority. So that way we can get, that's what we're seeing a lot of right now, where we're processing these opportunities a lot faster than we have in the past, because everybody's aligned and everybody has got a role, and everybody's a rock star. So, great things can happen, but it's not easy. It's putting all that together. It took, practically a year to develop all that, with, Paul, you, Eric, Eliam, everybody that we have kind of working together on this. And now you're starting to see, just a lot more deal flow, because we're just processing these opportunities way, way faster than we were in the past. Yeah. So,
and Ralph has a great question here. He's asking, Alex, you always seem so chill. How do you handle with the stress that comes with these projects? And I think you just answered that right there with that question, right? It's, we have this Rockstar team that's, able to handle things for us. And so, you really kind of spread the stress out amongst, a team of people, so that it's not one person that bears all the burden.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big part of it, of course. And I have my productive habits, and I definitely lean on those whenever I feel a little bit overwhelmed. It can get overwhelming, but I know what I want, so I know what I want to do. And I think I also am the type of person that I thrive off of a lot of pressure. If left to my own devices and just kind of to do my own thing, I'd probably just be lazy, sleep in every day, and smoke a lot of weed. So I guess now I have always something to do.
Well, again, the big thing that I took from these, kind of deal analysis is that, when we do these, and this again kind of goes back to your question here, Ralph, is we spread out the risk through those three calculators, right? So we already know what the worst case scenario is. We already know what the best case scenario is, and we already have our kind of our baseline, our idea of what we think in all, realistic cases, what would happen. So I'll give you guys two real life examples, right? Last week or 2 weeks ago, I got a text from our partner out in La Quinta saying, hey, there's a flood at your house. And I was like, man, that sucks. But I was like, does it really suck? I was like, not really. I mean, like, it sucks, sure. But it's like, it's something that can be handled. It's something that we already had baked into the price. We already knew, hey, if worst case scenario happens, this could happen. And really, this isn't even a worst case scenario. It's, hey, we have insurance, we have this handled, we have it taken care of. And so, the stress from that really, Alex, for me, went right over. And I know for you, you were, at a mastermind and you got on the phone with Ryan Pineda, our mentor, and, he got on the phone with our project manager and was like, look, man, you're gonna get this handled, right? Like, Alex is going to the pool right now. And I was like, man, me too. Me too.
Well, that's the reason we have systems and processes and the right people, because shit is going to happen, problems are going to arise. I mean, we're fixing up properties in different areas, and so you got to be prepared for that stuff. And I guess I heard the term, it's like organized chaos, where we got a lot of things moving, moving pieces, but it was not even that bad of a scenario. It's like, okay, we get a little bit of a flood, we did the insurance, or are we going to take care of it ourselves? We got a great deal to begin with. So, okay, instead of making X amount of dollars, we make like 10,000 less. Okay, well, that's not the end of the world either. And so a lot of what we do is mitigated, because we're buying things at a discount that allows margin for error. And so that's what you want in your portfolio, like buying properties that have good margins on it. And if something goes over budget, or something takes longer to do, or if there's a flood that's unexpected, that you can weather that storm, because you have enough equity in the property still. So cheers to equity.
We make our money when we buy the properties, right? Not when we sell them. So if you buy right, you're going to be fine in any one of those situations. And it really does help us on our end, avoid feeling the burden of some of that stress. So Alex, if you don't mind making me the host real quick, what I'll do is we'll go ahead and welcome everybody in onto the screen and share the screen with you guys here real quick. And guys,
deal makers, what's up? Aloha. Who's gonna talk today? Anybody got any questions? Any wins? What's up?
And, while we're getting them in there, Alex, that same week we had that happen. We also had a red tag happen at one of our other properties up in Joshua Tree, and same thing. Like, these are things that could, completely derail something or throw something, aside. But for us, it was just, hey, you know what? We have the right partners in place. We have the right system in place. We bought the property at the right price. And so really all things aside, like, this might set us back a little bit, but at the end of the day, is something that we prepared for and we mitigated when we bought the property. So welcome everybody onto the screen. And as we get everybody kind of on here, feel free to turn on your cameras. And if you have any questions from the webinar today, let us know. And we're happy to kind of get you guys some answers.
I have a question, actually. I know there's a lot of stuff we're still waiting for to happen. Just want to say what's up, everyone, as well. I know we're still waiting for a lot of stuff in news and word to come out about how cities react, but is SB 9 and 10 in any way changing your investment strategy in terms of potentially looking at properties that might be better for ADU, like the one you guys mentioned, or considering holding some property, knowing the potential to build out in the back or build multiple units can add an extra, like, way more monthly revenue than you ever used to be able to capitalize on a property?
Yeah, what I found though, man, with those type of things passing or whatnot, it's really a slow process to be, these counties and municipalities and all these things are not fast moving vehicles, typically. So I've been hearing people talk about ADUs for like 5 years. Now they're really hot. So I think that's going to take some time to trickle down before, and I don't think it would be unwise to keep up to date with it and continue to see what's happening. But for me, I've noticed that the ADU thing has been much, much slower than I expected. I heard a lot of people at the beginning, like 2-3 years ago, like, oh, I'm that ADU guy, I'm that ADU gal. And I don't know where they're at now. I don't really, it just, these things, when they require city involvement and all that, we're in California. There's a lot of bureaucracy and things just don't move fast. And I have not found that to be, oh, what's up, my man, Freddie? Freddie Diaz is in the house, my guy. I haven't seen him in a while. Sorry, guys. And so, yeah, that's my take on it, Edward. I just think it's going to take some time to trickle down. But you let me know if it's different. You're very vocal in the group. So let us know if you're seeing anything from any other side that's letting us know that that's happening faster. But it's going to take some time to trickle down, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I was curious to take, because I'm actually have an accepted contract on a property not far from the one the meetup was at. And that's kind of our deal with it, because it's a corner lot. The accessibility and the separation allows better opportunity to build multiple units on it, where we could build 3 or 4 units on the backyard, basically, and give them the side street access. So yeah, that's why I was curious your take on it. And also, thank you for the referral for the agent in Maui. My brother flew out yesterday.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah,
So
I'll
you
find
have
out.
a new neighbor in town.
Looking forward to connecting with him when I get there. We'll see if we can make it happen sometime next week. Give him an aloha welcome. Get him out there on his first wave if he hasn't surfed before.
Definitely hasn't surfed. Definitely not. Appreciate it.
What's up, guys? Any other questions? Anything else? Any big wins for the week? Who's making some money?
Yeah, and if not, Alex, we have one question coming in from Connor in the Q&A, just asking how to get started in rental properties as an 18-year-old who's about to finish his real estate license.
Ooh, look at, we got a young hustler in the house. I mean, I think it just first depends on how you're going to take down that property. If you're going to have a W-2 yourself for 2 years, or you're going to maybe partner up with a parent or someone else that may be another investor. If I were to go back in time, the number one thing I always suggest is look into the house hacking strategy, buying the biggest triplex, fourplex that you can afford. And if you can get that, if not, then I would suggest then working alongside an investor for some time to kind of learn the ropes. Perhaps you can work more on the creative side, right? And we'll look at deals that don't require you getting your own financing funding in your name, such as, a subject to or seller financing. So yeah, I'd say those are the two big ones. Considering that strategy. And then more than anything though, I think is with the younger guys and gals, what I noticed is that it's harder for them to look out 2, 3, 4 years because they've only been on the earth for 18 years, right? So where I've been on this earth for a lot longer than that, I could 2, 3 years for me, I can see that far out much clearer than somebody, right?
Yes, sir.
So I think that's the difficult part, being young and exuberant and wanting to get after, like, oh man, and then seeing most of your peers not even into that stuff. You got to think of, if you're 18 and you put in hard work for 5 years, you're only 23 and you could be rich already in 5 years, or maybe sooner. But like, that's why I suggest it, just really stay focused. But don't forget about living life and then creating the life you want. But you are pretty young, so I think that's the hard part of looking and having a vision of 3 years down the road because of your age.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Camacho.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah, man. And my biggest suggestion, just to piggyback on him, is the Facebook group I just dropped right now in the chat. Highly recommend jumping into the Facebook group.
Yes, sir.
And there's 2 folks in there. One of them's name is Eliam.
Okay.
And one of them is named Mark Neagley and Eliam Fuentes. And they're both 19 and 20-year-old kids that are just like yourself. And Eliam is helping us lock up, 3 or 4 deals right now.
Okay.
And Mark just locked up his second property. And these guys are 19, 20-year-old kids that are taking massive action. They're listening when people tell them what to do and how to go about doing it. And they're seeing the results.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I wanted to put Freddie on the spot and see what he's seen down there in San Diego, because this guy is a savage investor. This guy is usually working like on a dozen projects, worked on over 100 deals, doesn't do a lot of social media, still hasn't, stepped into that arena. What's going on in San Diego, Freddie? Give us some feedback. How your project's going? I'm just kind of curious.
How's it going, guys? My project is going pretty good. We actually just listed this property that I'm actually currently at right now. And we I don't even know why we listed it, because we actually ended up getting an offer, non-contingent, doesn't have an appraisal contingency, and we're gonna make a little bit over 200K on it actually.
Yeah.
So, there's still quite a few deals out here. I just got another deal too up here in Julian, but San Diego is getting a little bit tougher. Down in the city, I'm having to reach out in the county. Me, I don't mind driving out for a deal near you. So I'm driving out here, 60, 80 miles away, still on the edges of San Diego County. And properties are cheap, and they're very discounted, and we're able to pick them up at a really good deal. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm working on 4 projects right now. So keeping myself busy.
Awesome. I think that's another example, guys, to see like Freddie's in San Diego. He's not afraid to go a little further out, just because, if that's where you have to go, that's where you have to go to get your deals. Sometimes, and then now you have experience in both areas. So thanks for sharing, Freddie. Got to get down there and see you. All right, guys, we're coming up. I got a kind of a hard stop coming up. I should, anybody has any more questions or anything else they want to share? Other than that, we're wrapped up for the weekend. We'll see you guys, God willing, next week.
Cool, guys. I appreciate your time, Alex. I know if anybody needs anything, please do connect with us on the Facebook group. I see a couple people, kind of messaging in, Maggie asking about some hard money lending. And guys, use the Facebook group. There's a lot of information in the Facebook group where you can kind of, go in there and find, past webinars where we actually dive in and brought a hard money lender onto the call. I know a week or two before we brought other people in, that do other things throughout the 45 weeks that we've been doing this. So take a look on Alex Camacho TV on YouTube, and you'll find some answers on there as well.
One last thing for everybody that stayed on, just so you guys know. So I'm going to be headed to Maui next or tomorrow. We're looking to launch our mastermind ourselves next month or beginning of December. We're gonna do our first one. It's gonna be like a 3-day event. Just for select people that really want to kind of scale their business. And we're not really looking to, bring people on a brand new, it's kind of have a requirement of at least like 1 or 2 deals. But yeah, we're gonna be launching that. So keep an eye out for that. We're gonna be working on that. And part of it is gonna be obviously at this beautiful property that I purchased there with a partner. And we're going to set it off. We're going to teach people a lot of what we're working on. I think it's going to be super fun. I've already been part of several masterminds, so I know how to take the best out of all of those and just create our own. And I'm super excited about it, but just keep an eye out for that. It is going to be, cost. It's not going to be super expensive, but it is going to be a cost. And then I think for the right people, we're going to probably end up doing it like every other month or so if things work out. Just because we want to add a little bit more in person, a little bit more. We're noticing that the people that we're working with, that we're a little bit more one-on-one, and we have a deeper relationship, we can kind of expand a lot more. That's what these masterminds do. We just start to think together like, hey, how can we help each other get to where we want to get to faster? How can we leverage each other's like resources, networks? And that's what the whole mastermind is about. I'm not doing it for money because I'm already making a lot of money. So I'm doing it because I want to, just get closer to some of the people that are going to continue to take a lot of action like we are, like Will and I and the team is. So look out for that, guys. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Let's go.
Let's go,
Thank
guys.
you so much, guys. Appreciate it.